Hey, what's up everybody, this is Rick501 and today I want to show you guys an updated version of my Moze grenade build. Now if you didn't see my first video on this build or you don't know about this build, pretty much it is completely focused around just throwing out grenades, which with all the talents we have, will do tons of extra damage, can crit, will heal you percentages of your shield, which is a full shielding build, will give you grenades back, will give you ammo back in your current magazine, and just pretty much make you invincible if you're facing more than one target, and just do ridiculous amounts of damage. And it is pretty focused on mobbing, so like circles of slaughter and trials and stuff like that. Now first, before we get into the talent trees, I want to go over the few items that you're going to need. Now there's two items that you're pretty much going to need for this build to work correctly. Now first is the Bloodletter. This is the one you're going to absolutely need. And pretty much when you're healed, you gain shields instead. Now that's a main thing we need because there's a talent that heals us after throwing grenades. So we're going to be having a full shield build that also heals us percentage of our shields when we use grenades. Secondly, this one you don't exactly need, but you should definitely have the Deathless artifact, which puts your health on the 1 but gives you 100% shield capacity, which is all we really care about on that. And then the grenades you really should be using for this build to work correctly are hex grenades. Now there's a bunch of different variations. There's Hex, which is the weakest. There's like Merv Hexes and Splitter Hexes that are kind of the next tier. Then there's Merv-tacular Hexes, and there's Reoccurring Hexes, which both spawn 6 of them. Now Hex Grenades pretty much just follow targets around and channel basically beams of elements, whatever element Hex Grenade you have, into the target, and they basically hit multiple targets, any targets in the area, so they can hit a bunch of targets at once. And every grenade, if you say have a recurring hex, every grenade will do that, basically doing a ridiculous amount of damage. So those are mainly the items you want. The Bloodletter is the only one you absolutely need, but the Deathless and Hex Grenades are pretty needed as well to make this build work correctly. So for talents, the trees you're going to pretty much want to go into. You're going to want to go into the Demolition Woman tree first. Then you're going to want to go into your Bottomless Mags tree. And then Shield of Retribution tree. Because if you go in that order, there's a few different variations you can make. Now this build is actually going to be a bit updated from my last build. Because this one does a lot more damage. Even though this specific build or grenade spamming from Moze was targeted in the most recent patch update to be nerfed, it pretty much was not affected at all. So first we're going to go on the Fire in the Stag Den. Whenever you do splash damage, you deal bonus incendiary damage. Also Hex Grenades, even though they don't explode when channeling damage into targets, they're still considered splash damage. So next we have Means of Destruction, which basically doing splash damage. You have a chance to give you grenades back and to give you ammo on your current weapon back. And basically the nerf that was actually given to Moze was giving grenades back through this talent has like a 2-second cooldown. Pretty much doesn't affect this build that much, besides you can't just spam grenades in directions the targets aren't. 4 out of 5 and a Tor Cross Promotion, which has a chance to double your splash damage radius, which does help a little bit, but this is mainly to get lower in the talent tree. 3 out of 3 Pull a Holy Pin, which makes your grenades have a 30% chance to crit. Crit hit damage does not increase this, so you can't throw grenades and then pull out like a what's a pistol? The pistol that massively increases your crit damage, and no crit hit damage increases effect grenades crits. The biggest change of this build is actually going only 1 out of 5 in Vampire, which basically when you throw a grenade, for every enemy it hits, you get a % of your health back. Now, with the Bloodletter class mod, you pretty much get shields back instead of health. And since we only have 1 health and tons of shields, like 35k right now, you get a massive amount of shields back, percentages of your shield back, massive percentages. And also Hex Grenades hit a bunch of targets every time you throw them out, if there's more targets to hit. So you'll get a bunch of procs of this. Now before I went 5 out of 5, you only need 1 if you have all these items in this build, because you're pretty much going to full heal off one grenade anyway. And that also allowed us to go 5 out of 5 Cloud of Lead, which makes your shots have a chance to deal extra incendiary damage and not consume ammo. But this isn't mainly what we wanted. We mainly wanted Stroke the Embers, which we're able to go into because we're not using so much on Vampire, which increases our incendiary damage by 30%, which increases fire in the Skag Den, making all of our grenades deal incendiary damage, making them deal more incendiary damage. And also with this tree, Experimental Munitions, we also deal 10% additional damage every time we crit, and incendiary damage, which grenades can also crit. And then we have increased incendiary damage, basically synergizing all these damage talents, making them deal a lot more damage. So for the rest of this tree, we have Armor and Infantry, which basically gives us gun damage and damage reduction when our shields are active. We always have shields active or we're dead, so we basically just get flat damage reduction and gun damage increases. We have this talent, gives us max shield, shock damage resistance, making us just a lot more tanky. We have 3 out of 3 Thin Red Line, which is actually 5 out of 3 because of our class mod, which basically reserves health, giving us that amount of health as shielding. Now, how this works, even though we have a Deathless class mod, or artifact I mean, that puts us down to 1 HP, we're still considered to have that amount of HP, just we can't heal past 1. So this still does work. It still does reserve all of your HP and add that to shield. So basically with the artifact we're using, this pretty much just gives us a bunch of free shielding. Then we have Drowning in Base, which gives us a stacking gun damage increase for killing stuff up to 3, but it does reduce our fire rate for every stack. But for getting 12% gun damage and only minus 1.5 fire rate, this is completely worth it. Gives us a lot of gun damage. We already went over Experimental Munitions. Then we have Desperate Measures, which increases gun damage the lower your health is, which basically means just a passive gun damage increase. And with 5 out of 3 from a class mod, we get 83% gun damage increase just all the time, or pretty much that. Ridiculous. Now, this is where you can change up a little bit. You can go more Phalanx Doctrine, which basically what this does, every time you kill an enemy, you get 10% gun damage per stack, or more if you go more into this, and max shields per stack. Now, every stack lasts 30 seconds. You can have unlimited stacks, but getting a new stack does not refresh the old stacks. So even though you can stack an unlimited amount of times, you're not going to get unlimited stacks because your stacks don't refresh. Now, you can go more into this. I have 5 out of 5 because I have 1 for my class mod. You could max this out and then take points out of Stoke the Embers. I think Stoke the Embers is still just going to give more damage and be better, but you can do either or. It's not going to be a massive difference either way. So that's the entire skill trees. And we already went over our grenades, our artifact, and our class mod. For shielding, I'm using the Messy Breakup, which is from Genevieve. Now, the reason I went for this, even though it does have a little drone that shoots stuff, it doesn't do a ton of damage, and the drone also does shoot whatever element has a resistance on the shield. The reason I want this is because it has a high chance to give you Absorb, which with 2 Absorb rolls on, it gives you a 30% chance to absorb bullets as ammo. This does give you ammo back as a rocket launcher, which is the main thing we're going to use. But also, you can use any shield. The Transform is super good. Pretty much any shield that gives a lot of shielding. But also with a Messy Breakup, it can also roll to reflect damage. So you can get one with a 15% chance to absorb bullets and a 50% chance to reflect damage back. I think either of those are going to be the best. Transform is also super good. Anything take is going to be good. This just gives you a bit more damage because you can shoot out your rockets more. Now, pretty much the main weapon we're going to be using, unless you're facing a specific boss that you can't really use this on, are hives. Now, basically what these do, they shoot out a ball that float in air and shoot out a bunch of smaller rockets that track targets and explode. And also, any of our splash damages, any of our crit damages, any of our extra incendiary damage, all that type of stuff can proc from hives. So you're doing a bunch of extra damage. Your hives are getting increases from your gun damage increases, and you're getting ammo back to shoot more and more hives out, which are basically just tracking rockets that go and explode and hit stuff. So hives are going to be the best. You're just going to be spamming these while spamming grenades, and it's going to do a ridiculous amount of extra damage while your grenades are also hitting everything, doing a ton of damage. So overall, you're just destroying everything. As you'll see in the footage, you're just destroying tons of stuff. This is, in my opinion, the best mob killing build in the game. So doing circles, doing trials, all that type of stuff, it's absolutely the best. So for the rest of this video, it's going to be an entire run of the Slaughter Star 3000 if you guys want to stay and watch that. If not, you can just stop watching the video now, but subscribe if you want to see more Borderlands 3 content. Leave a like if you liked the video. Leave a comment down below what you think about this build. If you have any questions about this build, where to get the items, anything like that, leave it in the comments. I'll try to reply to as many people as I possibly can. And thanks for watching.